am the owner and creator of everything that you find at CarolJo's.com. It is an online jewelry and accessory business for women. So everything you see on the website at CarolJo's.com, I have created. I have fun making jewelry and accessories. But we're more than just about selling of the jewelry and that type of thing. We do chat times. We do bead sales of all different types of things for it. Hi there, Miss Jade. And we also do tutorials. Tonight will be a tutorial. It isn't going to be like our normal one where I show you how to make something. This is going to be more of a chat style tutorial where I have some points that I've got down that we can talk about. Hi, Gladys, and see what it is that I look at, what I've learned, and all that for a booth, for your in-person sales. So we're going to be talking about a lot of details in that. And there was one thing I didn't write on my notes for tonight. I did write down notes so that I wouldn't forget things. One of them was I didn't write down to do a checklist. So today my Tip Tuesday video was to do the checklist. I'm like, hey, I could figure out how to get that one in. So yes. Hi, Rainbow. I am going to bring up my backup account on TikTok just so that I can see comments. Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny. The one thing I forgot is like one of the most important things. Hi, Melissa. All right. There we go. Hey, Miss Kayla. I'm missing you. Yep, I got it in because we got her in there. So my little whoopsie, I got in. They're called happy accidents. I am going to check off, hi FNA, when we get through things, just so that I can make sure that I am hitting all the points. So I'm going to have a pen in my hand. I do not like clicky pens because then I click them. I'm going to use my Dr. Pepper pen. Yay. So, as I said, this one is going to be more chat style. So if you guys have questions, go ahead, ask the questions. Hi, Boo. Okay, sounds awesome. I do not have another focal. I only got one focal in my bag with this one. And then we found this pen, and so we made it. Buttercup and I made this one together. And I only have one, and so I kept it. But this one, like I said, this is going to be more interactive. If you guys have tips of what you have done at your shows, go ahead and put them in here. All right. Ooh, I love my Dr. Pepper. Love it, love it, love it. I can't give up. That's my little thing. As always, if we get 10 shares and 10,000 likes on TikTok, we will do giveaways. I will do 2 different types of jewelry you get to pick from tonight. I am very casual today. I have hardly any jewelry on. I have my hair back in a ponytail. The reason why, I am about halfway done or more than halfway done. I just saw Ms. Mary V's in here. I think I need her help, but I'm getting there. I am organizing my back stock. Hi, Cosmic Brownie. How are you doing? So I am redoing where my back stock goes. I am putting it on shelves to have vertical space rather than just taking the whole entire floor. And I have all of the tools, the string, all the little baggies that I have in back stock. I got all of the polymer clay Heshy beads already done, and I only have 3 containers of the pre-sold ones. I am doing good, Brownie. Thank you for asking. Hi, David. That's all right. Now people are over here talking about cosmic brownies, you know, the little Debbie cosmic brownies. But I'd have the next thing, I need to get 3 of those intermixed in with all the others. And then from there, I just need to do the Hagar sale, estate sale, and get them organized on the shelf. I have I have them on the top shelf, all of my mailing supplies and everything all organized. So I'm getting there. Hopefully by noon tomorrow I will be done. That is the cross the fingers. Maybe not noon. It might be 1 because we have a sale tomorrow. All right. We're not going to eat you, Cosmic Brownie. We would go get the little Debbie's Cosmic Brownies. All right, we're going to get started. Like I said, guys, if you have questions, please ask them while we're talking. So we're going to talk about how can we set up our booth to maximize our potential customers. So when you think about about your booth, don't just do it as how can I set my jewelry up or how I can set whatever it is that you're going to be selling at your in-person event. We need to, I don't speak Spanish, sorry, only English. We need to think about how to maximize getting potential customers to your booth. So look at it from a different lens. And when you set up your booth, stand outside of it, think of it from that aspect. Also, when you're done setting up, if you have 5 minutes before the event starts, walk to the entrance if you can see your booth from the entrance. If not, walk to the end of each side of the aisle that you're on, each side. How much does your booth stand out in that aisle? How much does your booth stand out from across the way? Because that is your first impression that you are setting, is if they see you at that point in time. So think about, what are your brand colors? I can tell you, I personally did not have brand colors set up for my booth for years. I loved greens, as you all know. So I had found some green material and I said, that's what it is. But I never thought about what other colors and why you select that color. Yep. You want to make your booth stand out. And so thinking about your brand colors helps you do that. I still have in a shade of green, but that shade of green is not the most popular when I would have my booth. It wasn't the most popular color or the most seen color in my booth. If you actually looked at my booth, I do not have that green in the booth when you're looking at it. How I drew people into my booth from across the way is by my displays. So you can think about, can you do your colors? Can that catch their eye? Can your display catch their eye? Can a banner catch their eye? So that's some of the things that you want to do. Does your logo stand out from everybody else's? Yep, and that's it. You make it different. So that's another thing that I wanted to talk about is how you can stand out with your displays and what you're selling. So Cheyenne here on TikTok put, I make and sell earrings. That is what she does. So have you seen banners when you're at shows? They could either be the banner that's across the canopy at like outdoor shows. They'll have a banner in the front standing out. Or if you're an indoor show that has curtains, they'll have the banner behind up above. Or you might see some vertical banners that are like the wind ones where they flap a little bit. But have you seen the banners? So my question is, what's the first thing that you see in the banner? Because that's going to be something I want you guys to think about if you have a banner. Is it the business name? Is it your business colors? Because that's what I will tell you. I put my business name as my banner. I did not think about this one until in the last year. And once I heard this, I'm like, why didn't I not realize that years ago? I have been doing shows. I did shows from 2006 And my last one was in 2023. Yeah, 2023. It is actually, what are you selling? That big banner up on top should be, what are you selling? So do an eye-catching color of your brands, but tell them what you're selling. If you saw, and I'm going to go off of not just jewelry, so I want you to think about other things that you see out there and how can you incorporate it into your booth. Have you ever seen, people have that freeze-dried candy? If you have freeze-dried candy in bold colors, candy colors, that just a couple of those colors, that's going to stand out. And you're going to be like, I got to go to that booth because now I want the freeze-dried candy. So that's where you got to think about how to make it your brand colors. Hi, Mia. And what you're selling. You can have your logo and your business name in there. Just make it smaller. It can be in there, but bring out the attention of what you're selling. You can have a picture of jewelry on that banner. You could have something about jewelry, like sparkalicious jewelry or whatever it is. So Cosmic Brownie is asking, what colors would you make a donut booth pop and stand out? With that one, I am thinking this is where my brain went to right away. And it is the pink frosting with sprinkles on it. All those colors on there. Yep. And someone over here said pink too. And two people said pink also. So we're thinking that pink colored frosting. So yeah. So that's what you have to think about. And you can ask people what to help you, because I might think of something differently than you do. And that's where, hello, is it Ink Dragons? And that's where you have to think about how can you do that. And Tracy over says, Homer Donuts. Yeah, everybody's visualizing this. That's what it is everybody, when we're all visualizing that pink with the sprinkles. And that's what you will stand out. So that is where you got to think about. So creating those banners. So she said also over here, people were saying pink or like neon, but she doesn't know about the neon. And I would say after all of what we've been talking about between TikTok and YouTube here, everybody is saying pink. And even Miss Jade over here says now she wants donuts. So that's what you want. That is the effect that you want when you're looking at the booth. So that's like when you first walk in. And the thing is not all of the booths that you have the curtains behind you to hang your banner up at top. So you have to come up with an idea of how to get your banner up and seen across the room. I am not the expert at creating that. You know who I go to because I stink at that kind of stuff? I look at my husband and I say, hey, I want this. How do we do it? If you can, we're a community here. If you have a question about like, how can I do that? We can all sit down and talk about it and help you solve it. It may or may not work, but we can talk about it. And that's what we're here to do. But the thing is that you've got to get it up either vertically, but it has to be in your booth. It can't be out in the aisle and annoy people. That's one thing I will say about banners is don't put them out in the aisle where people have to walk around them, because you're also going to block off your neighbor and it just isn't great. Ooh, Kayla came up with a great thing. Chat GPT. I use Chat GPT multiple times a day here for my business. Almost all of my posts, I have done Chat GPT. I could have put in there what I was going to put in there, and I'm asking them, can you get it better? And they will come back and I'll be like, let me tweak it. I don't use exactly verbatim a lot of it because it's not my talk, but it helps me get there. So yes, Chat GPT is a godsend on doing that. But figure out how you can do that. When you have outdoor shows, a lot of the outdoor shows have canopies. So if anybody out here has canopies, put in the chat, what color is your canopy? I can tell you there's probably, I'm not going to say, but I can tell you about how many colors of the canopies you're going to have. And it makes you, how do you stand out? How do you make your canopy stand out? Ooh, Rosie's got gray. I have not seen the gray one. You got green, Mia? All right. Laura's got blue. If you go to juried events, which is what I did, a lot of my outdoor shows were juried events, you have to have white. The non-juried shows had half white, half blue. If you really truly walk down, you will see red every so often, but in the juried events, I would say 9 out of 10 of them required white. And I had been in a lot of juried events that did require white. So you got to think about, how can I make my white canopy stand out? And so from that, you can hang a banner at the front on the top of your canopy. But word of advice on that is that hanging it right on the edge of your canopy brings it down. And what would happen more times than not, even with my canopy without my banner there would be people that would hit their head on the canopy or on the banner because it's like 6 foot tall. And there are people that are over 6 foot tall coming into your booth and they know to duck, but they just hit that banner right in front. So you need to figure out if your canopy allows for you to put a banner up on the top part where it's there, or can you somehow or another Velcro it or attach it that way? So some canopies, if you go with a higher end canopy, will have the rivet holes in it so you can attach your signage. But I'm just going to say, don't put it down low because you're going to make people hit their heads. And what happens then is if they hit the head, they just have this eat and they leave. So also I've learned with canopies is don't have it on the lowest setting because someone's going to hit their head. But high, you have to be careful of the wind. Windy days, you got to be careful with those canopies. All right, so that's how you can do signage when you first come in. Then we're going to go to layout next. So I'm going to cross off that talking point because I want to make sure I'm getting them all. What is the most common layout that you use? Do you use the U? Yep, that's what I'm talking about. That is a canopy. It is those push-up tents. I call them a canopy. So it just might be lingo because of where I'm from versus where you're at, but you're on the same thing. So yep, you got it. So do you do a U shape? Do you do an L shape? Do you think about how you're going to set it up? That's one of the things I want to ask. Because this is, I love it. She calls hers, I call it a setup tent summer thing. I love it. Yep, you do the U shape. I will tell you, I do the U shape, and it is not always the best one to go with. Yep, but so I would use the U shape more times than not because I could maximize and have my outside and all my back and just get open in the front and people come in. I will never forget one of my shows. It was one that I'd done many, many years. It was actually the last show that I did. And in there, I had my first booth was upstairs and it was on a corner, so I could do the outside and I could be on the inside, and that worked perfect. Then I moved downstairs and I had a corner booth. Once again, the same thing. Well, I wanted a bigger booth. I wanted 2 booths instead of 1 because I have a lot of stuff. And so I went with the the U shape. I went with the U shape. No, we're just getting going, Robin. Come on in. And so I went with the U shape. And do you know what happened when I went with U shape? people walked right on by. Just literally. And I actually just went across the aisle and one booth over. So people knew who I was at this show. I had been attending it probably for 5 or 6 years. I had my regular customers at that show. And so that is where I had a problem where I couldn't get them in. They just kept walking. The reason being is, someone was filtered here on TikTok. So if you can reword it and put it out there. So what happens is that at this show, the row over from where my row was at the end, there was a place that everybody wanted to go walk through that booth. And it created this gigantic mess of being able to walk around and come towards me. So they finally got through it, and then they were like zooming because they just wanted to get out of there. Okay. There you go. Yeah, and you can have it. The thing that I figured out at this show, and that's why I wanted to say this, is I put a table in the center of my U at the front of something that would catch their attention to stop and buy. And for me, that show, I can tell you today, what I put there was my kids' jewelry. I create jewelry for kids that are anywhere from 4 years old up to the tween, like the 12, 13-year-old stage. I had a kids line. I put all the kids' jewelry in that center of my booth. It was so you would have, I'm going to kind of show you here on a piece of paper. My pen doesn't want to write very well here. I'm going to get a different one. Dr. Pepper's let me down. I think I need to replace his ink. There we go. All right. So if you notice, I have the U shape. This is my entire display. I sat up one table right there. And people would walk. They would stop. The kids would look at jewelry. Everybody else would come in then. And my checkout was right here. So that is how I ended up changing. I mean, we're talking like 2 hours into the show, and I was like, we got to have a change. I can't have no sales. So I had to pivot. I do not like that word, but we're going to use it here today. Had to pivot and set something up to make people stop. So you can do the U shape, but what I will say is have something, what's the way, that will make them stop. You don't know if you have to rent tables, yeah, but I literally, it's just, you can take another table that you would have in that U and move it over a little bit. Just do something to make it. Yep. There you go. Rosie uses boy items, male items, because a lot of males aren't in jewelry. And I can tell you, I didn't make very many male jewelry pieces. So yeah, so that's how she stops and gets people to come in. So what I was going to say is when you're creating your U, you can do the U. You just have to figure out what spot in your setup are you going to do so that you can have them stop and look. So after this setup, it made me stop and think a lot about, oh, there you go. And she's talking about renting tables, which we will get into how to make sure you have, if you need everything or if you need to rent. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit, Cosmic Brownie. So you need to figure out what is your one item that you're going to use to have people stop. And I have talked about, I've actually had 2 items that I end up having people stop. So what I ended up doing is I got rid of the table that I put out. And so I created like this big thing, and then we have an open area. Right here, I would put my rings. I had rings that you could buy that were wire wrapped rings, very inexpensive to make, very easy to make. I would have them there. set them out. People would stop, talk about them, look at them, and then they would come in, walk around, and then they would get over here. And that is where I did my charm jewelry. Another point where people would be stopping, and that is where they sat and spent a lot of time picking out stuff. And I ended up having my checkout back here because I couldn't have it up front. So yeah, so you just have to figure out what will work. I made my item over here be an inexpensive item. It doesn't cost a lot to make the rings. I mean, we're talking 25 cents to 50 cents a piece. They could be made with acrylic beads, glass beads. They could have been made with a single gemstone. And then there are 3 beads that are in there. The focal bead was the most expensive bead, but anywhere from 25 to 50 cents. And I sold them for, this is, kid you not, this is my spiel. It was either $3 each or 2 for $5. Giving them a deal. They think the 2 for $5 is a great deal. I priced it as if I were selling it for 2 for $5. If anybody wanted just one, hey, I just made an extra 50 cents. I know that sounds really weird to think about, and probably, you know, from the sales aspect of like, that's not kind. But the thing is that I got them in. But most people didn't just buy 2 rings. Most of them bought 4. It's a $10 bill. They're like, hey, that's okay. So that was how I could get them in for a $10 quick sale. And if that's all they bought, that's all they bought. But I spent on those 4 rings anywhere from $1 to $2, and I got $10. So think about the markup there. That was like my quick, easy money. I can sit down and I can tell you to this day, I can make 22 rings in an hour. So that, I will tell you, that's how I made a lot of money. Yeah. So that is what I will say about putting that item there. Put your attention grabber right at the beginning. And then you can set up your booth in any way that you want. Some people do it where they have, in the middle, they'll have it, and then they have it out to the sides. I personally don't like that one because it's really hard to be on both sides and just being able to interact with your customers. I wanted something where I could walk around and interact with all the customers. So you got to think about it from that aspect. But also, this one is not your typical 10 by 10 booth. This was a 20 by 8, 20 feet long, 8 feet this way. So it's a bigger booth, and I do have a video of that booth out on both YouTube and TikTok, and it's a really big booth. So you got to think about your size of your booth. Every place that you go to is going to have different size booths. So remember I said I was in a single booth? The single booths were 8 by 10. I could go to a different show and they would be 10 by 10. I could go to a different show and they would be 12 by 6. Could go to a different one and it might be you only have 3 foot in the front, but you might have 20 feet. So every show has different booth setups, and that makes it difficult. So how I pre-planned my booths when I did them, but it didn't always be like, that's what I'm going to do. I would just print off a piece of grid paper you can go and do free printing of grid paper online. I print it off and put in there like 1 square for each foot that I had. And then I could write down what I was going to put where in my booths. Hi, Geraldine. And that's how I would come into it. Now, I knew I was going to have to make changes at about 50% of my shows. If I hadn't done that show before, or if I had done that show before, but they moved you places, you would have to like sit and think about how they come in the door, how the traffic is going to flow through, so that you can set your booth up so that eye-catching thing or item, it's not a thing, it's an item, is what they're going to see first. So let's say if I set this up and put my rings here, because that's what I always did, but traffic flowed this way, I didn't catch them until here, and then they're on to the next one. So that is what I would say is go in. This is what I would do at shows. Literally, I would go in, ask, where do people come in at? Because usually when they do where you're gonna check in at is usually at the back. So you're like, where at in the front do they come and how do they walk through? How are you planning this? Your people, yeah, I totally get that, Erin. Yes, if it is really tight, I don't like going in it either. And that's why I switched and did not a table here, but just all the way around. It was very, very open. And then here you can be on both sides of the table and looking at things. So those are things to think about, but asking your vendor coordinators or event coordinators how they're imagining things to flow will help you on how you set up. And so you just need to be like, okay, I need to change this, or I could do it the way I thought of. So you just need to be open, because I would stress about that and my anxiety would get up there on days when I didn't know how my booth was going to be set up. And that might just be me, but literally it would be anxiety day. Another thing to think about when, here I'm going to bring this up again. Don't sit here. If you have a chair, don't sit out here. And also don't sit right here. The thing is that you got to sit so that people can get in, but they can't see you sitting because they think if you're sitting that you're not welcoming. I don't know how else to put it, but it doesn't mean that you can't sit, because we're being on your feet. Because like for me, I got up between 5 and 6 in the morning to go to shows. You drive about an hour to get there, and then you set up for like an hour and a half. So from there, then you have there from like 9 until either, some of them were 2, some 3, some 4, some 5. And then you have to tear down for another hour afterwards. That is a lot of standing. And so I don't think that we should not stand, or that we should only stand throughout the whole time, but watch where you're sitting. And when you are sitting, keep your head on a swivel. And I don't know how else to say it than that way, but just kind of like look around. Don't grab your phone and start like reading a book or playing a game. Leave the phone down. The phone is going to lose its charge, and you need that daggone phone to do your cards. So what I'm going to say is leave the phone down when you're sitting and just constantly looking at how you can interact with them. Awesome. I'm so excited for you, Patty. So I have 2 questions that are being asked. First question came in on TikTok, and it was, towards the end of the show, does anyone mark things down for people? I personally don't. My prices are low enough that I've done it as low as possible, and I don't do markdowns. But that's how I priced my items. And I will explain that to people if they ask. So let me know what you guys, if anybody does that. Now over here, Cosmic Brownie is asking, what would be the most eye-catching donut? I got maple, glazed, strawberry chocolate, jam, and cream-filled ones with chocolate and strawberry icing. Okay, for me, because I love those chocolate or strawberry icing ones with the cream-filled or Bavarian cream. Oh, to me, that would hit me. But my husband, he would be like, no. So I think if you just had a little sample, that would be the first thing. Ah, yep. I think the pink and the, Mike said, how about a cotton candy donut, like pink and blue? Erin said samples are an eye catcher. So maybe if you had samples of the donuts out there. Somebody else loves Bavarian cream also. All right. I'm just making sure I'm getting all of you. Oh, sprinkles would be another one over here. So that's another idea. So that's what you have to think about when you're doing your booth and setting it up. All right. We're moving. Jade never passes up samples. I will tell you, I actually was next to somebody that was doing samples, but her kids were sick in the booth with her, and they were getting the items to have ready for samples. I would not sample that one. And a lot of people did not sample that day. I was like, sick kids should have been left home when you're selling. And what she was selling was the little seasoning packets. So it's not something that you would make there to eat, but everybody would just walked away. Yep. I know it sounds really weird. And I know, as I was a single mom when I started doing shows, and sometimes you didn't always have the luxury, but it was like, so one day her kids would be there, and then the next day one of them wouldn't be there. So I was like, oh. Ryan doesn't do wood. So Ryan will not make me the folding wood checkout. And I have never had to have it. And with me not doing as many in-person shows, I don't know. But the thing is that I will need something, but I think they have that at the shows that I'm going to be doing. You can put out a bowl of candy, of wrapped candy. That's but what happens is most people just grab it and go. I do need to, I am going to be doing vendor shows here, just once a month. All right, I did see. How do you interact with people walking by? Greet everyone. Some vendors come off too strong. Literally, that's one of my talking points here. I will go to that one next. It was called interactive. Okay, so I talked about that I had my charm jewelry. I let people just gravitate towards that one. And while they're standing there, I would walk over and give it a spiel. So that was one of my interaction ways. The other one that I did to get interaction is, remember we have been talking about, Teresa does do the bowl of wrapped candy because the kids love it and the parents follow. That's a good one. I like that. So what I remember we have been doing about bold colors or something bold that catches your attention. So how I wrap that into interacting with people is I don't interact with every single person that walks by my booth. Number one, just like you said, it comes across as salesy. To me, it also comes across as fake, not genuine. It's just not pleasant to see somebody be like, hi, 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 hi. No. I don't do that either. But what I do is take and see something bold in people. It could be their glasses. It could be their purse. It could be a piece of jewelry. It could just be their bubbly personality. I will say, when I see people like that, I will just be like, I love your glasses. If it's their glasses that stick out. And I'm not, just be like, I love your glasses. I truly do. They just look great on you. Don't flip it, but just say something to them. Do they walk away? Yep. And so sometimes it's okay. I mean, it's okay. You're not going to get, Sissy, you didn't miss it because guess what? We have a replay. This will be available on YouTube as a replay, everybody. So if you thought you missed something, you're not. You can rewatch it. But think about it from the aspect of, how can I start a conversation where I don't come across as salesy, just not genuine? Because that is one of the things that I talk about, is that you have to make a connection. Do you make a connection with someone saying, hi, how are you doing today? Not always. But if you stop and, get them to stop, because you're like, I love that. And I might wait 5 minutes before I do it to another person. I'm not going to do it to each and every person. So that's why I say interact. Just have a conversation. Because that is what you're starting with, is a conversation to get them to come into your booth. Sometimes, my kids came with me and did shows with me. Val would sit there and be like, hey, how you doing? Can I help you find something? And Literally, do you know how many people stop for a child and buy? I know it sounds really bad to say, my kids came with me and helped me sell. If I had to go to the bathroom, I knew I was okay because they were going to sell. But yep, okay. Someone uses little tiny bracelets to bring them in. Someone uses stickers to bring people in. I love these ideas. All right. Cosmic Brownie says to explain a bit more, I work with 5 other friends. So 3 greet, 2 greet, depending on how busy it is. And the other 2 or 3 are left to do orders. And at least 1 works at the cash register. That works for you. And you're lucky to have actually a whole group of friends being able to do that together. Because for us, I had my kids when they were younger. And then when they started getting to high school, it wasn't as kosher to go with mom unless we had a swimming pool type thing. And so they didn't always come with me, but they did. My kids did a lot of shows with me. Yep. Um, I was going to say grandparents with kids are the best shoppers. Exactly. Because they're going to, no matter what, they're not going to say no to their grandkids. Trust me. Yep. So yeah, so that's things to be looking at. And you don't have to come across as salesy. Just be genuine. Be kind. What is the max that I will travel for a show? I would go, depending on how long the show was and how early I had to get up for it. The furthest one away from me was an hour and 45 minutes. And I did that probably like 3 or 4 times. One person was the reason why I kept going back to that one. This person would spend about $200 in my booth, no problem. And everybody else made up for it. Yep. And the thing is that, yes, you have to do things for boys. So for us, when my daughter was younger, she wanted a cell phone and she made wishing stones. All it was a glass, round piece of glass that I could get at the dollar store. You could get a bag for like 30 of them for $1. And then we bought stickers at the dollar store and we just decoupage or put on the Mod Podge, I can't remember what it was, over the top. Very simple. You had to make sure that the sticker was a smaller sticker, and she sold those to be able to get a cell phone. Boys loved them. Literally, that was our thing for boys. So it doesn't have to be jewelry that you're going to make for a boy either. Think of something that they would want that's small, because this is years ago. She is 29, so you have to understand, she started doing this when she was 10. We sold them for $0.25 a piece. It didn't cost us that much. I mean, it didn't cost us hardly anything. Yep, you can make them into the magnets. Yep. You got what I'm talking about, the flat glass. So the flat part is where we put the sticker on. It works. And then you put the Mod Podge over it. So if you can think of something outside of jewelry even for the boys, because you don't want to leave them out. Yes. But does that help answer the question that you had about how to interact at the booth? I'm hoping that does. All right. Another thing is your signage. All right, Elizabeth. Thank you. Signage and pricing. I have up around my booth little QR codes in a picture frame so that they can go to all my social medias and follow me. And there's a little sign that goes with it, follow me, and then you list out all of them, and they can go to it. And it is actually my link tree that you guys see here if you go to my bio. It's the exact same thing. Then they can follow me, and we can talk about it. You'll be like, hey, if you want to know where I'm going to be at, follow me here. That's where you'll find me. Or if you want to know about new things coming, follow me here. You might post it on all of your social medias, but you want that person following as many social medias as possible. So putting up that signage. My branding is black, white, a specific shade of green, and a specific shade of gray. So when I did that, my picture frames are all black. My displays are gray. My tablecloths are black. My packaging is white. I don't bring in that green there, but I do have it. So, Joya is asking over here, how do you make your QR code? So when you are doing Linktree, and I do Linktree, the free version, I do not pay for it. Sorry, I have to plug in my phone. My battery's about dead. Linktree allows you to create a free one, and you just create it within it. I watched YouTube videos to do it. So that's how I created my QR code. I also have signs all over just talking about my business. So you can do that too. So, I put them all in 4x6 size glass picture frames with a black frame. So it's consistent. To me, that was like what I wanted. I wanted more of the minimalist chic look where you have the 3 colors throughout my entire display. So that's what I did. You have to make a decision if you're going to individually price your items or if you are going to put signs up to say what your prices are. Some of my things, I have signs for my prices, like the rings. There's a sign for those. There are other things that have signs for that tell the price. There are some things in there that have the prices marked on them because I don't have all my necklaces are not the same price. So like my necklaces would be priced separately. And there's a little sign saying if there's not a price around it, look on the back to help them out. Because some people don't like to ask questions or they don't want to talk to somebody. You have introverts that are out there that want to shop, but they just don't want to talk. So put signs out and then figure out how you're going to do your pricing and put signs with the pricing, how it is. And being an introvert trying to sell is not easy because I am an introvert. You guys might not think it, but I am. I would rather just stay at home. Yep. So some people just don't like to ask the questions. So do signages to help you. Yes, it will be saved over on YouTube, Lori. So yes. As we're talking about your signs and your setup, you have to look at, you're very welcome. You have to look at the levels. So, and what I mean by levels is having the eye go up and down. Having the eye be just one, doesn't work. So when I first started doing my shows, I had my stuff that I brought my stuff in. I would flip it over because it wasn't a crate. It was like a plastic tub. Flip it over, a smaller one, put cloth over it, and then I put my display on top, and then I put another one in front of it, and then I had stuff on the table. So I had 3 levels. Did I go very high? No. Should I have gone higher? Yes. I learned that I needed to go higher, just to let you know. But you also have to remember the height of your display. If you're going to stand behind your display, you need to make sure it doesn't cover you up because you can't talk through a display. So you got to make sure the level of it, of how you're going to stand and talk to your customers, all goes hand in hand. So literally take cloth that is in your brand colors, take your tubs that you brought stuff in that are smaller, flip them to where you can sand more things on it. You can use the necks. You can use, I'm trying to think of else what I used besides necks because I had different styles of necks. I literally had like 4 different styles of necks that I would have at shows just because that created a visual difference. So yes, by the time I figured out I needed to have different things than what I had, I started bringing in necks for the necklaces. I had spinning, revolving displays for the earrings. Worked awesome. I loved them in indoor shows. Outdoor shows, they sucked. Half the time I didn't even have my earrings out at indoor shows. Well, thank you. This is a I have worked hard all day look. Were all of your sellables loose and on display? Let me see. I missed part of that one there. Then you package what you brought. So I have my necklaces. If they are hanging on my display, they would be in these packaging. I don't know how else to call it. But my like purse bling, I had them out and they were not in packages. Earrings were always displayed. But I had them displayed in a way that if you wanted to try on my jewelry, you could try it on. I didn't let them try on pierced earrings because no, I don't want to have somebody else's ear in my earring. So no, you could hold it up there. That was all I would allow. I wouldn't allow them to put it in there. If I saw somebody doing it, I actually grabbed those earrings and they came back with me and I didn't sell them. That just is me. It grosses me out. And I don't know if every state has laws on that or not. South Dakota doesn't, but it just grossed me out. So. So yes. Yes, I had mirrors. So I had mirrors throughout my entire display. I had more than one. I just got little ones that were on a stand that I could fold up flat. So what kind of tags did I use to display my bracelets? They are the ones that you guys get. Thanks, Lisa, for saying that because I was like, ugh. So, you know, if you've won a piece of jewelry from me, I have the little tags. Hold on. I'm going to grab them. I'll grab one of them and I'll show you how I made them. You're going to think I am cheap because I am. I bought white tags. And then here I have a stamp that I would do my CJS logo where it says CarolJo's down below. I have a second stamp that has my website. I'm trying to get that to focus. There we go. There we go. I lay out my entire table and I take the stamp and go do, 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 do. I did like 2,000 of these or 4,000. I don't know. I did a lot and I still have some because I did them towards the end of when I was doing shows and then I don't do shows now. So I still have a lot done. Before I did these tags, I have to say this one is what I love the most. I could hang them on my displays and it was fine. Thanks, Jade. She said, hey, I cut my tags out from cardstocks. You ain't cheap, LOL. I used to print my own business cards. You buy the business card and then you can create your own business cards and print them out. I would fold those in half and I would put my bracelets on those. So they had my business card. You have to have a way where they know to find you. Yep. And that's the thing is we need to do what works for us and what we can afford, because this isn't to where you go into such a debt that you can't get yourself out of. It is a business that you need to succeed at. So you do things that will make it so you can do that. The things that you need to do though, is you need to have a way that on your items that they have a way to know how to find you again and purchase from you. Having ways, like I said, my picture frames were not even $2 a piece. And I just cut them out on a piece of white paper and put it in the picture frame so that they could follow me or subscribe to me, depending on which social media it is. So literally, that is what you need to think about when you're doing that. Sorry, Rose. I have this one piece of hair that just wants to fly out, and he might just keep flying out because I just threw my hair back in a pony because it was yucky today. after doing all that hard work. But that's the thing, is what works for you is what you need to do. But make sure that you have a way for them to contact you. One thing I will tell you, and I don't know how the rest of you are, is like putting a business card in each bag. I did that for a while. I didn't get any leads or like repeat customers from that business card in the bag. And when I sat and thought about it, I did it for probably 6 months. And I'm like, why isn't this working? And then I thought back to how I am as a customer. If you slip those things in my bag, when I get home, I just throw them away. I don't think about I need to keep it. So that's why I put it on the jewelry, so that if they look at the jewelry when they go to wear it, they're like, oh, I need to keep this. That's why I made that change. It is Taco Tuesday. All right. Other types of things that you need to do for strategies that you can think about for doing things is like creating signs for an area where you have your new items at. What is the most eye-catching thing to have you stand out for other booths? For me, I will tell you what made me stand out for my other booths is my displays. And I don't have one up here to show you, but think of it this way. I have 2 pieces of pegboard that's framed, and they are on, they have a, they open. I don't know what the piece of material is. I just said, honey, I want this. And so Val and my husband came up with a prototype, because Val is more wood and liking and designing with wood. Ryan is not. Val is my kid. Hinges, thank you. So I told you I don't build. I just said, this is what I want. And so we mapped it out on a piece of grid paper about how big I wanted them, what I wanted them to look like, what I wanted them to do. So we took pegboard and cut it down and built a frame around it, and then put 2 of them together with a hinge, and then there is a little spring hook, so it will lock so they don't open. And then I put a piece of like 1-inch foam in between the 2 layers, the 2. When I shut them, you put a piece of foam in there and then lock it. And then we put handles on it on the hinge side, and you could carry them. So that's how, and my displays are probably 3 foot tall. So they're tall. And that is what people would look at. They could see it throughout the entire thing. Yep. So Patty B's got it. Yep. My earrings don't always stay on it. And so when I open up the earrings, I usually have to put the earrings back up. But otherwise, it is the best thing for, that. The thing is that because of that, I had to be creative about how I would do heights on other things. And it wasn't always easy. Yep, I sat them on the tables. Yep. And I did not sit behind mine because I could not see through them. So that's why I'm warning you. You won't be able to be behind them in some of the displays if you pick it. So I couldn't sit behind it. So I pushed that up against the wall and then created things out to bring people in. But people would see those and then they would walk on in. I found these plastic J hooks on Amazon. And those are the hooks that I used. You just put them on there and they stayed on. And I had those displays for years. I still actually have them. Someone asked me if they could purchase them from me since I'm not doing shows anymore. But the cost of shipping them would be extremely expensive because they are not lightweight. Yep, so there is there's an eye on one side, like an eye hole that it screws into the wood. And then the other side has a hook that has a spring on it. And when it goes forward, it hooks on there and keeps it closed. All I can think of hook and eye, but that's a sewing thing. And if Ryan weren't out in the shop, if he were in the house, I'd be like, honey, what was that called? I can find out what it is and let you guys know. But that's what we had for my displays. I don't know if I can find that display really quick to show you guys. I'm going to go to Facebook because I know it is out on my Facebook on my business account. But I can't, it's going to be like because November of 23 was the last time I did a show. So let me see if it's in the pictures. Let me go and see about pictures. But that was what kept everything in my booth, just to let you know. That was the standout thing. How long were my pegboards? So I had different sizes for mine. I actually have 6 of those displays. And so if I had a 10 by 10 booth, I could only put up 4 of the 6. So I had to decide what I wanted to put up. If I did a 20, which is what I had in this show, here it is. Let me get out of my backup account so you guys can see it. So here is my booth. Yep, I could have done that, but I didn't. So I'm going to see if I can get a close-up of them. So here's a close-up. Yep, I did set it up for one Black Friday sale 2 years, like right after I did my last show. Or was that last year? It wasn't 24, it was 23 that I did that. So, but as you can see, one of them sold in here. That one's an empty one, but I did them at different levels to create different eye views here. I had baskets that I would put out in front with different things too. There's one of my signs for the QR code. So like here is necklaces where I said I put them on card. This is just cardstock that I cut to do that. So literally I just cut up cardstock. But this was before I changed all of my displays. So there I used my my business cards to do those, to hang them from. There is the setup that I had for my charm jewelry. Yep, they are, yep, you could put, depending on what it was, you could put 2 to 3. Nope, I did not. I did not keep track of inventory like that. This was these are the rings that I told you was the booth catcher that people would do. That is my rings. This is what I will say about, yep, I wouldn't even do receipts for it. I literally just counted my cash at the end of the day. And the reason being is I didn't keep track of my inventory per se because people steal. And I say that's between them and God. I could tell you when I had to restock everything, I could be like, okay, for when I went to restock, I'm like, I can do this, this, and this. I knew what I sold. Or, you know what? Someone might have stole it from me. Okay. I only saw so I started selling in 16. My last show was in 23. So that would be 17 years of shows. Did I get that right? I don't know. Yeah, 17. I only saw one person stealing from my booth. Yep. And my cards are always on a separate platform than the cash. So, and then I would have off to the side my tubs that I used to bring my jewelry. I stacked 2 of them, put a piece of cloth over it, and I put my cash box and my checkout box on that, so it is not on the table. and I sit between the people and my cash box. So that's what I would do there too. And I would have my bags, my business cards, and I had sticker or not stickers. I had scissors, I have tape, I have pens, all of that sitting there. I brought extra things if I needed to price things. I brought all my pricing stuff. So that's what I did. I had a box that was the checkout stuff. I know it sounds really weird. It was the big, you know, those plastic shoebox bag. That's the size of a shoebox. That's what I used for holding all my stuff for checking out. Towards the end, it was only me in the booth. Woohoo! We got to 10K. When my kids were little, they came with me too. But the design that I just showed you is really hard to have more than one person unless you have someone floating in the middle. But that's at that time, by the time I came up with that design, it was just me. All right. We are going to do a color here. I got to pick out a color. This is hard to do some days. Oh, dear Lord. I'm trying to come up with a color. Okay, we're going to do that one. I haven't done that one in a while. That's why I put that buffer in between. And if I was going to move, I would move my cash box. I used to not have a cash box, but I just couldn't handle I couldn't handle it all like in an apron because I tried that for a while and I didn't want people to see it. Whereas if I had a cash box, but I also took money out of the cash box and put it somewhere else so not all my money was in the cash box. Oh, I gotta get 2 items here to select from. Okay, we got that one. And ooh, I found these beads because tonight I was going back through my back stock and I found some really cool beads that I haven't seen in a while. I'm like, I thought I repeated these, but I must not have. All right. Okay, I didn't think this word was going to be this difficult, everybody. Did someone put cast iron that I just saw? Okay, watery color. Thank you, Omega. Is it Rizzler? This is just like a pull it back in the ponytail style look. All right, let's see who was the first one to get it. Jade, you are the winner. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Then it was Joya, Paige, Valentina, and Lori. Aqua was our color. This is what you get your choice of tonight, Miss Jade. You get this one, bracelet. Or you can do the glass pendant. That one has got some shimmer in it. So there's that one. So literally also on my bracelets on the back side of my packaging, I put what size it is and the price. And then I would just hang it on the pegboard. And I did everything in rainbow colors. Pendant. Okay, you got it. I was going to say, you do not have an open basket here, so I will put it in your stuff for tomorrow if that's okay. Yep, I would write, if a necklace, I would write how many inches long it is, and bracelets, I would put that in there. Yep, I would do, I had mirrors. Yep, my prices are all different depending on what it was made with. Was that you doing the cast iron? You know, I didn't do this, but, you know, I went out, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm doing good, Mandy. Or not Mandy, you're M. Hi. Right? I just gotta make sure. Um, so my thing is that I went out and double checked some things to see if there were things. Oh, yes. Great. I'm doing good. Um, the one thing, Jackson Block Fortnite, I remember you. The one thing that I did is this to research my talking points for tonight. I didn't want to go in here cold. And it was funny because I started writing up some and then I started looking for to make sure I didn't miss any. One of the things that I never did, I did have a good day. Well, you, holy buckets, you've had a long day and then you have choir tomorrow. So you better get some rest, little missy. Um, there are different things that you can do when you're at an in-vendor show. You can create, like I was talking about, an area for your new items and draw attention to that. You can do bundling. Like for me, I never did bundling for my sets. I would just say they were all individually priced so that you could do it with what you wanted. A lot of people enjoyed that, but some people just wanted a set and just wanted one price. They thought they were getting a deal if they got it as a bundle. You can have sale items. You know, if you need to push something to get it out, do sales. You can do signage for all of that and create, but put those at the front so that they draw attention and people stop. And I don't know when I was showing you guys those pictures, mine are she, her. So, yep, thank you for asking. Bye, Rainbow. Yep. I did festivals, I did jury shows, I did vendor shows, indoor, outdoor, all of them. I literally have done 25 to 30 different vendor shows in a year. And I call them all vendor shows because ultimately at the end of the day, your booth setup might be a little bit different for each one of them, but it's still a show. You're trying to sell something. Oh, that is so cool. I am so excited for you. You'll have to let me know how it's going. Which ones are what kind of shows are best for sales? It just depends. It honestly comes down to how well did your event coordinator do their job? And it is hard because some of them just want to collect the booth fee and some of them since your stream, I was back in and didn't sleep. I was subbing to you and thank you. So some of them just want the money. I literally had someone that does a large event here in Sioux Falls twice a year. She put me she put us in fours. We were all in groups of four. So you would have four, so you could walk around these four booths. 3 of the 4 were jewelry. But then there was like sewing over here and 2 down was another sewing. But she put all the jewelry together. And it's not, that just doesn't work. You could talk to this lady till you're blue in the face about like what would be better for us as vendors. And she didn't care. She cared about filling the show so she could line her pocketbook. And I hate saying that about people. Okay. You have a great night. Good luck tomorrow. Keep me posted. Yep. And so and that's one of the things when you're finding your shows, you need to vet out what they are. Thank you. You need to ask them questions. If they're not truthful when you get there, like I'll ask, what is your percentage of jewelry vendors? Because we're not all alike, but we're jewelry. Ooh, that'll be fun. I loved map tests though. So when you think about it from that aspect, you might, back in the day, they had paparazzi. They had Stella and I can't think of what it is, Stella and Dot. They would have other ones that would craft jewelry like me. There was Origami Owl. But when you think about it, they're just, you can't put them all in there. Bye, man, or Emily. I'm sorry. I was going to call it because your mom's name is there. So that's why you have to, some do great at putting them in different locations and keeping it at 10%. If you get to 15% was my max. 15. And if you had more than 15% jewelry, I didn't go to the show. So, but then like if you see them where they ask you what you sell, a lot of them are like, they will only do one Tupperware, one, oh, what is the cleaning one? Norwax. You know, they'll do one of those. And so some of those vendors have the, what am I trying to say? I can't think of it. MLMs or whatever they're called. They'll have those. So you got to figure out. Yep. The thing is that Origami Owl. Oh no, that stinks, Miss Joya. One of the things is that one of my shows had a number at the back behind you for your booth. So people would say, I'm going to look through it because this vendor event had hundreds of vendors. And I also had an outdoor one that numbered us also, and we had to put our number up on our canopies. So in those shows where we are numbered, and people would be like, I want to walk through and see what I find. Okay, you know what I do? Grab up my business card, write my number on the back of that business card, and then do that. You know why? They may come back, they may not, but they also might be contacting you going, I didn't get back to you. Can I buy it? So that's another thing to think about when you see people. Yep, that is so true, Elizabeth. Knowing the crowd, and if you're going to have the people that are older or high schoolers, there's going to be different things. Yep. All right. So I was going to go back to one thing I was going to say, and I totally skipped it. I was going to say it, and I said, if you guys noticed in the pictures that I was showing, I have lights. In that event, there are places that are dark. And where I was at in that layout, there are some light parts and there are some dark parts. And so what would happen is the person that had the booth before I moved into that spot, they would open up the curtains and to get light in. But then that takes away and you have all the other vendors that are behind. It was actually in an event center, and that was on the concourse of the event center. And so you could look down to all the other vendors that were down on the floor. So I ended up purchasing lights that I could set on the table that have a swivel, like, and I could change it around. So, and they have little bases. So that was what I put on the table. You can buy lights, and I got mine at Menards. I know I talked about Menards yesterday, but you might be able to find them at different places. They clamp onto the booth or onto my display. So those displays that I have, you could put those lights and you clamp them on there. So I would say look into different options for lighting. And bring extension cords because you never know where the plug-in is going to be at. So I have a tub that is just my lights. And if I'm going to be at a show that I need to do that, yeah, you could put the LED lights around there. No, mine were electricity. The event did not charge for electricity. You just needed to say if you wanted it or not. I always say yes when it's a free thing. So that's why I would do those and I put them on there. That was what I did for my lights. Ryan came with me like the last 5 years that I did that show and helped me set up for it. I didn't do that setup by myself. We could come on Fridays, set up on Fridays, and then the show was Saturday and Sunday. So he would not come with me on Saturday because he had mail. So we would drive down to the event on Friday. We would set up, we would go out to eat, we would get a hotel room and make a getaway for the two of us. And then he would drive back and do the mail on Saturday morning. And then on Sunday, then he would come back on Saturday night, pick me up. And then on Sunday, we would go back down and do it. Oh, Jiminy Christmases. Ryan would be like, okay, but what about Ford? You'll have to send me pictures of it. So yeah. So that's what Ryan would help me with, because that show was getting to be too much for me to be able to set up by myself. 20 feet is a lot. I said this one already about, but I got to say it, always smile. But I talked about, having your head on a swivel to comment about people passing by, but always have that smile. Don't have the smile just here, have it in your eyes too. You just need to be like, and it's not to be fake, be genuine. If you see something you like, you will smile, and that smile is what they need to see. And I hit all my talking points that I wanted. Yep, don't look bored or disinterested. Yep, I'm over on TikTok also, TikTok and YouTube. So that's why I keep going like that. Yep. Yep, if you think somebody looks bored or disinterested, you just keep going. And that's why I say, even if you don't engage with them, if they see that you are trying, then they're going to stop. Yep, it is CarolJo's LLC on TikTok also. That my name is the same across all social medias. He will be able to tell, I'm going to write this down because he'll be able to know what I meant. What you mean there. Whoops, let me do this. I know what a 454, but I don't know what dual quads is. So then he's going to explain that to me. And it's so funny because I have one of my mirrors that they can try on makeup really close by me so I can kind of see. How much would be your max that I pay for a vendor event? It depends. One of my vendor events, it was getting up to being $600 for the event, and I bowed out at $600. I paid $500 to do it multiple years. Yep. But you know what? I would also pay the $10 booth fee too. Yep, and that's the thing. That's why when I did my charm jewelry, Teresa, the charm jewelry was them. They could watch me putting it together for a person, and then they stop and were like, I want to do that too. Because it was usually off to this side. I'm making the jewelry right here. The charm jewelry was over here. But the one thing that I will warn you, if you're going to be doing something while you're there, like making jewelry or what have you, you have to be very careful that you're constantly head swiveling, because if you're down and all you're doing is concentrating on the making jewelry, it's not going to work. And also doing the charm jewelry was something that was very difficult to do at large events if I was by myself. I had to have somebody else usually with me at those shows because you couldn't do it. Yeah, it will be a half-hour lesson or more. Okay. Yep, and the thing is that you got to look at your profit margins. It was very, 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 very hard for me to do that show that cost a lot of money. The first year I did it, it was a single booth. I had a lot of help at that one. I can tell you the people that helped me was, of all things, Callie, and I had Diane, my sister, my daughter Courtney, and myself. There were 5 of us in a little 10 by 10 booth. It was a little bit crowded, let me tell you. That was a little bit too many people. But the thing is that I made great money at that show. And the first year I did it, it was right around $2,000 for a single booth. Then I did the single booth. in one area for a few years, but it was an outdoor event, and that street was a wind tunnel. And so a lot of people lost their canopies in that street or on that street. So I asked to be moved, and I was moved around. Oh dear Lord. I'm trying to think of how you can do it. Yeah, that one was a 1-day event. It was from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You had to have, this is the hard part about these types of shows. You had to have your vehicle off of the street by 7 a.m. So I would get up at 4 a.m. for this show, tootle on into Sioux Falls, because yes, this one is in Sioux Falls. I would unload my vehicle, go park my vehicle, come back and set up. People were ready to shop at 7 a.m., even though it did not open until 9. So you had to be set up and ready to go at 7 a.m., or you're going to miss a few sales. So literally, it was the longest show for me. I was going to say, I'm trying to think if I have it. No, I don't have it. I will see if I can get it for you. I'll post it in one of my things. I'll do a video so that you guys can see all my different social medias, and then I'll put in the comments all the different ways and do links to it, because I'll do it on my computer. So literally you had to be set up. You had to be able to do that. You also had to stay open till 5. You could not bring your vehicle into the area until after 5. And it was a cluster to try to get out of there. So it was awful for that. I ended up doing 2 booths at the end, and that's why it was over $500 to do it. Oh, no, you can go watch it, Robin. If you go into my CJS into my profile, the Lemonade and More, touch that. Down below, you will see a one that says tree. Touch that. That will bring up a whole list. Go to the bottom of that list, and that is my YouTube. And go over there, and you will be able to watch it after I post it. After the live, I have to change it to public, and then it uploads. So it might not be available right away, but it'll be available sometime tonight. So you didn't miss it. You'll be able to watch it all. Okay? And it'll help my numbers on YouTube of getting my engagement up, because my engagement has been increasing on YouTube and also on Instagram. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, but that show was a long one. I would also do some that would be $10. Some of them would be free. There is a casino just across the state lines in Iowa from us. That one was free. They never charged us. We just had to do a drawing at the end of the show. Let them know who won it. And we could just be giving away a couple pieces of jewelry. And they were fine with that, because it was all about the chance to win because you're in a casino. And so that's literally all we had to do for that show. It was simple. That was it. But they did it 3 times a year. And so there were all different types of events that I did. So we did that one in the casino. The one that I was talking about, it was Sidewalk Arts Festival in Sioux Falls. I have done Riverboat Days in Yankton, South Dakota. I have done the Spring and Fall Craft Show in Sioux City, Iowa. So how I do my taxes on sales tax is it's included in my price, and then I turn it into the states that I did the show in. I used to have sales tax licenses in Minnesota and Iowa because I did shows in both of those. I gave up my Iowa one this year because I don't plan on going back to Iowa. I'm not sure about Minnesota. I have to have my sales license in South Dakota because that's where I'm domiciled at. All right, awesome. And then I also keep track of by show how much I sold at each show, and then also on Shopify I keep track of all of that, and then that goes to my accountant. for my income tax. So yeah, I was gonna say my shows would be anywheres from I've spent 0 to 500. So the parish tax is actually what we would have as part of our sales tax in South Dakota, depending on the location of the event and what type of event it is. So if it is so if I were to do something and sell it out of my home, I live in the country, I do not charge anything but South Dakota sales tax rate, which is 4.2%. Now, if I go into Sioux Falls and I do an event in Sioux Falls has a 2% city tax. And because it is a tourism thing, I also have a 1.5% tourism tax. So in that case, that would be, I think, 7.7, if I did the math right, percent sales tax. So do I keep gas receipts and things for my shows? I do mileage. I do the standard deduction for mileage for my taxes, so then I don't have to keep tax or receipts for my gas and that type of thing. Do I keep track of what my gas is? Yeah, because to me, that's what I spent. And then I got to make sure I'm getting my deductions to meet that. So yeah. So when I say for your income tax, federal income tax, South Dakota does not have a state income tax. So I don't know about that, but I get my accountant. I have an accountant. You guys have heard me talk about on the show or here, always have a good accountant. They will help you with what you need for deductions, your expenses, talk through. Oh no, you have a good one, Joya, get better. They will help you get through all of that. And um, oh geez, that works. So yeah, so literally, I talk to my accountant and she helps me out. So in our sales tax, like what you're talking about, has to be filed depending on how much sales you have. Sometimes it will be monthly, sometimes bi-monthly, sometimes semi-annually, quarterly, or annually. The state of South Dakota decides how often you pay. We don't get to choose it here. Minnesota, you pay it once a year. Iowa, you pay it quarterly. Everything is different. But like where I was talking about the amount, I include sales tax in my amounts for my sales. Nebraska does not allow that near us, so I never sold in Nebraska. Because when you have little kids with you, and I mean, my kids, they couldn't come with me and do shows until they were about 8 or 9 years old. I think closer to 10. Yeah, 10. Math is not always easy, so it's just easier to do it that way. That I cannot answer because I am not an accountant, so I don't know that answer, Patty. Sorry. See, sometimes I don't know if that's like Iowa requires you to have a license, Minnesota requires you to have a license before you can even go to the events. And I don't know what South Dakota does because I've always had one. So, but each state is different. Literally, each state is different. So that's the one thing to think about. All right. I hope you guys found this information to be helpful tonight. And as always, it will be available out on YouTube in just a little bit. I don't exactly know when it'll be there. So that's the thing that I will let you know is that information is still available. It'll be there for as long as you need it. Let's see, what did... So, yep. So there's different rules on it. So what I did, I honestly, when I started my business, I called the Department of Revenue in my state. They got me to how I should get a license because I was doing a DBA at that time. I didn't have my LLC yet. And then when I went to do my LLC, they tried to do it. What I'm going to do, Jackson, is I am going to do a video on just on YouTube that will be about all my different social medias and to follow me on them. And then in the description, I will put links to all my social media. So look for that video. It'll probably be tomorrow before I can get to it, but look for that video and then you can follow me. Okay. But they helped me out. They also got to, I did Department of Revenue, the Secretary of State. They helped me out. All the different areas helped me out. And then, there is a local, like Sioux Falls office that helped me out with making sure I was filing everything correctly and stuff. So just food for thought, just to reach out to your state and local government offices to help you out and figure out what you need. And then, you know, you can talk to an attorney about doing your LLC for you if you want. An accountant helps me out with my taxes, my federal taxes, because we don't have state here. So for sales tax, I went to state and local. So those are the things you just got to Google or maybe try ChatGPT to see what they say. But they may not always be right. So I don't want to say do it and then they tell you something wrong and you go, Carol, that was wrong. But they can start helping you get to the right direction. How's that for an answer? All right. I do need to go put little Miss B to bed. So we do call her little Miss B every once in a while too. So that's little Buttercup. So I need to get going here. But if you guys have more questions, always just message me and we can see if we can bring another talking one like this. I'm glad. I have no jewelry on tonight besides my wedding ring and my earrings from my husband because I have been doing work. If you guys, I will show you guys once I get it all done. I will create a video of the before, the middle, and the after because I took pictures. All right, everybody, you all have a great night. We will talk to you tomorrow, 11 a.m. We are going to do the silicone sale, and that is the only live that I will have. I did before, middle, and after because it's been a process getting this all organized. All right, everybody, have a good one. We will see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. for silicone. Bye.
Bye.